All right, Unite. How's everybody doing? Woo! I know this is the last talk of Unite. Surprisingly, we're closing out Unite this year, which is awesome. Thanks for adapting with us, and thanks for choosing to spend part of happy hour with us. Does everybody have some drinks if you choose? All right, cheers. We got some water, H2O on the rocks on the table. So thanks for coming to our session. My name's Jake Steinerman. I'm joined here by my friend and colleague, Dilmer Valasios, who I think a lot of you know from YouTube, of course. We're really excited to be here. We're both developer advocates at Meta for Horizon OS. We're here to talk to you about something that we're really passionate about, which is, of course, developing for MetaQuest and Meta Horizon OS with Unity. So a couple things we're going to talk about. We'll start with really kind of getting into why VR, why we're passionate about it ourselves, and of course at Meta. And then Dilmer will get into getting started with your first VR app and a lot of tools and resources that we provide to you to get started. I'll get into what's next, and we'll have some time for Q&A, hopefully at the end as well. So first, why VR? Why is it something that we're so passionate about, so excited about? Why is it something that, of course, we focus so much of our attention to? I'll get into a couple of reasons, but first, to answer that question, I'm reminded of a powerful thought from the French novelist Marcel Proust. The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. And that at its core is what VR offers developers, the chance to build experiences that allow their users to see things in new ways. It's more than just a new medium, it's a gateway to entirely novel perspectives, allowing for the creation of immersive environments where users can explore, learn, and engage in ways previously unimaginable. This unique capability empowers developers to push the boundaries of storytelling, education, and entertainment, delivering profound and memorable experiences that resonate deeply with your audience. You know, a question that I've gotten asked recently, and something I've gotten asked by a number of game developers or new game developers in the space is, can I just take a game that I've already built, maybe it's a 2D game or 3D game on a console or Steam or something like that, and just port it to VR, right? I think there's a lot of games we want to see them to exist in VR. Can I just take that existing game I have and bring it to VR? And the answer is a huge no. And the reason is because VR isn't just about being in 3 dimensions, being in a headset. It's about embodiment. So what does that mean? What does it mean to have true immersion in VR, whether it's storytelling, education, or entertainment? It means that you, the player, are not just controlling a character on a screen, you are that character. You feel the weight of the virtual world, the presence of digital objects, and the direct connection to your actions. This sense of embodiment, of truly being in the experience, is what fundamentally differentiates VR from traditional 2D platforms. So, for example, Arcanage from Vitruvius VR, which just arrived on the Horizon Store a couple of weeks ago. This is where you engage in full physics combat using Arcanite-infused swords and guns, and freely explore the densely filled environments under siege by Hyperion's neural corruption. This unique capability is why players are loving VR and why developers are building such successful experiences. And they can be more than just gaming. We'll go through a couple of examples here as well. But one thing that's been happening recently in the VR space over the last couple of years, there's been this new type of game that's exploded in popularity on the Horizon Store in particular. It's something I like to call playground games. I know some people might call them, Gorilla Tag clones and things like that, but I like to call them playground games because it's where players are free to be playful, creative, and have spontaneous and interactions that are encouraged. So take, for example, UGG from Continuum VR, where you raise and care for your own pet dino, take them out on adventures with your friends, explore, and survive. UGG only just launched in September, and it's already rocketed to over 160,000 reviews on the Horizon Store, becoming one of the most popular on the platform. How you watch movies isn't just changing as well. It's becoming an entirely new experience. Back at Connect 2025, just 2 months ago, Blumhouse enhanced cinema was announced, which gives horror fans a new way to experience fan-favorite films like Megan and The Black Phone. The scares bleed off of the screen with immersive effects and Dolby Atmos spatial sound, so the cinema surrounds you. This is probably one of the few titles on the Horizon Store that I actually don't want to play because I'm a 6'2" baby, and it's absolutely terrifying to be in that experience. With the Quest 3 and Quest 3S, mixed reality experiences are more accessible than ever. But they're not being built just by big developers and IP, they're being developed by small indie developers as well. So for example, an indie developer at XRCC, the XR CreatorCon, which is an incredible hackathon that occurred earlier this year in Berlin, a dev built Survival Ball, where you use a real soccer ball tracked by the Quest cameras to dodge and destroy enemies, helping you practice your footwork in the process. It's actually really a lot of fun. But like I said, this is being done by developers both small and big. So actually launching today, Demio, a new version of Demio with Dungeons & Dragons battle marked from Resolution Games, brings the beloved D&D universe to the MetaQuest with a unique mixed reality experience. This cross-platform, cross-device multiplayer title allows players to gather around a physical table, interact with a virtual game and virtual game pieces, and enjoy shared social gameplay in mixed reality. So imagine the thrill of seeing your favorite D&D characters and monsters come to life on your tabletop, blending the digital and physical world seamlessly. This innovative approach to gaming fosters a deep sense of presence and connection, making it perfect for shared experiences with friends. It's a groundbreaking example of how major franchises are embracing mixed reality to deliver immersive and social gameplay on the MetaQuest. Something else interesting that's happening is the ability to go and visit real places in extremely realistic applications. So at Connect, we announced Hyperscape. So this is and Hyperscape Capture. This is the ability to use your MetaQuest to scan your physical surroundings and step into those worlds with hyper-realistic detail. There's a couple of sample experiences that we put out, everything from Happy Kelly's room to you can go into Gordon Ramsay's own kitchen, step into the Octagon at the UFC Apex, and hop into Chance the Rapper studio. There's actually an exciting announcement and update to Hyperscape that's being announced later today, so pay attention to the meta blog for updates on that. All right, so hopefully you're feeling a little bit inspired and are beginning to feel why Dilmer and I and the rest of Meta are so incredibly bullish on VR. It's truly a platform unlike anything else, offering a canvas for creation that's just waiting to be explored. But enough with the inspiration. I think we're gonna dive in here, roll up our sleeves, and show you how to actually get started building these experiences. So, Dilmer, let's do it.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you very much. And who in here has done any VR development? If you can raise your hand. Okay, about half the room. Well, thank you. And I'm going to walk you through some of the things that you might already know and also some of the different workflows that we have here for you. So I'm really excited to show you that. I'm also a developer advocate, just like Jake just mentioned, focus on the mixed reality part of Meta. So just to talk a little bit about some of the main requirements, those of you who already know and have done development with VR and MR, these are things that you probably already know, but I'm going to reiterate it for the rest of the audience. So you're going to need Windows 10. This works with also macOS Sierra 10.10. Unity 6.1, and the reason why we say 6.1 and recommend it is because that version now supports a new building profile, which is called the MetaQuest building profile, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that today. Also, XR plugin management package, that is what allows you to select whether you want to support OpenXR, whether you want to support Oculus, which is deprecated, and also other different platforms. And then we have a variety of different SDKs. The MetaCore SDK is basically the one that gives you the camera rig, also access to pass-through features, audio SDK and haptics, and I'll show you that. But this is basically the boilerplate of what you would need to start developing with VR, which is Meta XR Core SDK, and also the Meta XR All-in-One SDK. All right, so we have a really cool tool. So just to give you a little backstory, I started working on VR many years ago, and I used to work with the Oculus integration. Some of you might know, if you raise your hand, do you work with Oculus integration? Okay. Awesome. So you remember that that was a very painful process. You had a folder, you had to copy and paste it, and there wasn't really a good workflow. It was this big monolithic application, set of folders and classes that you needed to inherit. It wasn't really straightforward. So we're introducing, and this is something that has been out for a little bit, it's called a project setup tool. And it's really cool because once you download the SDKs, it gives you a set of different rules. You can apply the rules based on a recommendation. It basically gets your project ready to go for VR and also MR. And not only that, once you add new features, like if you add pass-through, if you add haptics, if you add different features within our SDKs, it's going to start providing you with more guidance, and you can apply what you like. If you want to ignore something because you're a graphics developer and you're like, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing, I'm going to ignore it, but these are just some recommendations that we provide. With that, we also have building blocks. I'm sure many of you have heard of that. We have these at the booth. And the idea here is not to replace, I'm a developer, I've been developing for more than a decade, so I love coding, sitting in the computer, building things from scratch, but I don't really like to recreate the wheel every single time. So with this, we have different collections, so you can decide if you're gonna do an immersive application, we have a collection of building blocks that provide you features to be able to implement that. And by immersive, I mean VR. And then we also have for mixed reality, tabletop games, different building blocks that you can get going. We have things like a camera rig that allows you to get the position of your head as you rotate around. Also, if I am basically walking towards something in virtual reality, that's also going to capture the position. So that's pretty much referred to as 6 degrees of freedom. And then we also have pass-through, controller tracking, hand tracking, building blocks that you can just drag and drop into the Unity scene. So here's a good example of a very simple feature, grabbing a component in 3D. I mean, that's going to be like your hello world. You build an application, you want to grab an object, and you want to be able to grab it and move it around. So the cool thing with this building block, it's not just, I'm going to just use my controller and grab it. This allows you to, basically, you grab the controllers, you put it on a table, you use hand tracking, and now it's going to be able to toggle automatically for you. And I'm going to show you how that looks. But it handles a lot of that logic. You don't have to decide, okay, I want to support a Quest 2, a Quest 3 controller, I want to support hands. This handles all that, and it handles basically switching from one to another pretty quickly and effectively. So, and you guys can see here on this screen that these are some of the different components that make up that grabbable building block. So here's an example of a demo that I built for just to show you how it works. I'm grabbing the object, it's using the grabbable building block. I put the controllers on the table, and now automatically it's going to detect my hands. And the cool thing with this is, and I'm going to show you a slide that you can actually extend it. So you might be more like you want to create hand poses that are more custom. Maybe you want those grab interactions to look more realistic. You can also extend it, so building blocks are extendable. And you can add your own logic, of course, to that. So, and this is what I'm coming to. So if you look at this slide, this has a building block that I just talked to you about, which is the grabbable. But in this case, the crayon that I'm grabbing is adjusting to the pose. And I also have a little outline here on my hands. So that means that I'm actually adding additional functionality to the building blocks that I added. And this is a pretty cool feature that, it's been out for a while, but I wanted to reiterate it, that you can actually move the joints. And you can have multiple hand poses. Let's say you have a cup, or I have like this clicker with me. And if I grab the clicker and it has a grabbable component, I can create one pose that looks like this. I can create another pose that looks like this. And then the system is going to automatically detect what's the best pose for that grab interaction. So another really cool feature that we released has been out for a while, but I keep reiterating it, and a lot of developers that come to us are like, Dilmer, how can I develop for PC and Mac and be able to iterate faster, right? Because when Oculus integration came out, it was you had to put the headset on, you had to hit deploy, and you wait for shaders to get compiled, shaders variants. There were some talks today about simplifying that process. I think if you do make some changes, it's going to be faster, but things like this will make it even faster, right? We have, in this case, this is a demo that I put together for GDC. It's a whiteboarding co-located experience, and it took me about 2 weeks to implement, and I don't think I would be able to implement it in 2 weeks without having something like this, which is the XR simulator. So you can test pass-through interactions, you can test, which means that we can see the physical world, and we can overlay like virtual objects into the physical world, and we can also test virtual reality experiences. The cool thing with this is I'm moving the controller here with my keyboard, so you can use your keyboard as another input device. You can also grab the real controllers, which I've done before. You basically grab your Quest headset, you put it on a table, and then you calibrate it, and then all of a sudden you can also connect your physical controllers with the XR simulator, which was a really cool tool because sometimes you don't want to be too rigid on how you grab the controller and use your keyboard. It's pretty hard. You can also connect the Xbox controller if you wanted to do that. So a lot of cool features packed into this, and you can also simulate multiple synthetic environments. This is the default that gets added by default, and you can also create your own custom environments by using JSON and your own 3D models. So I really recommend you to check this one out. Another feature that I think a lot of VR and MR developers, including myself, did for many years is I would always create a VR experience, and then what I would do first is, I need a logger. How do I create a logger that I can actually display what's happening behind the scenes, right? So I would grab a canvas, create a custom logger, start writing, and it's cool that you can do that, but why reinvent the wheel if we can provide you with a very robust way to basically debug your code? So Immersive debugger, it's really not like debugging where you kind of step through, but it provides you with the hierarchy right in your headset. So you see the hierarchy, you can select the objects, very similar to how it works in Unity, where you can see all the different properties. And you can also expose custom implementation. If you had a method, say I want to start the car, and you want to expose that, you can expose that method to the Immersive debugger, and all of a sudden you're going to see a button on Immersive debugger that has that action bind automatically for you. So you don't have to involve a UX designer in order for you to bind to the backend. So I talk a little bit about the MetaQuest build profile. So normally, if you're going to deploy to a Quest headset, the first thing that you do is you create a project, and then you switch to Android automatically. The reason for that is because Horizon OS, which is the operating system, is running basically on top of Android. So we use a lot of the functionality, basically the NDK tools, the Android tools that are part of their SDK to be able to deploy to the headset. So recently at 6.1, the Meta and Unity worked together on adding a new build profile. And it does use some of the Android functionality already, but we have some pretty fine setup for you. So this has things like what is the right compression to be able to have textures that are performant on a Quest device. It has things like, okay, what is the scripting backend that I need to use to be able to deploy to a device? So I recommend you also to look at this, set it as default. You can also add other building profiles that leverage Android and also Quest. So this is something that was introduced recently. Then MetaQuest Runtime Optimizer. So let's say you have an experience, something probably more robust to what I just showed you, and you want to make sure that you can optimize it, right? So we have MetaQuest Runtime Optimizer. So many developers go into and look at Perfetto, or they use the profiler on Unity, and you might have some people that are pretty advanced in those areas, but MetaQuest Optimizer allow you to determine, okay, what are the bottlenecks? Which game objects in the system are taking a performance hit? Which textures are pretty heavy? We also look at shaders. We also look at materials. So this is another tool that I also recommend you to use. You connect the headset. There's an APK that gets deployed to the headset, and that information gets basically sent back to Unity, and we provide you with actionable statistics that you can use to improve the performance of your game or application. So I talk a lot about different features in building blocks, a variety of different building blocks, but under that, there's a lot of different SDKs. So as you're looking at building blocks, you're like, well, I have a grabbable component, I have hand interactions, I have the haptics components, but all of that gets added automatically as you add different SDKs. So the Meta XR all-in-one SDK, it's basically everything, right? You want to create an experience that has all of our SDKs, then you can download the Meta SDKs from the Unity Asset Store. And then, but if you don't want to add everything, you can always go and say, okay, I only need Meta XR Core SDK because I only care about the camera rig, I only care about pass-through, I only care about controller tracking. Then that's really all you need. If you want to add additional SDKs, let's say that you want more advanced hand interactions and your game uses, maybe ray casting with hands, maybe you want more like customized poses, then you use something like Meta XR Interaction SDK. We also have Meta Voice SDK, and then some of the other SDKs that I am showing you here. The other cool thing that we announced during Connect is the building blocks for pass-through with artificial intelligence, with AI. This is really cool because when we first released camera pass-through, just to give you a little bit of context on camera pass-through, that's a feature that allows you to, basically camera access allows you to get the texture from the camera on the headset. And what is that important is because now that you have the texture from the headset, what you're seeing, you can actually run LLM models against it. One example of that is like object detection, right? We're seeing a lot of things with YOLO where you look at YOLO and it's detecting and segmenting different parts of what you're seeing, a human, a car, in different areas. So we're providing a lot of these for you. The building blocks in here are for camera access. We also do left and eye access to, basically you can access both cameras. And you can also have, like if you look at the one here that is called Cube, what that gives you is you can drag and drop this component and it's gonna basically display what you're seeing through the actual Quest device. So just think of a texture that gets basically projected onto the cube. And then the other ones are for LLM, like if you want to connect to OpenAI, if you want to connect to 11 Labs, and some of those LLMs, the features are going to be on these different building blocks. That's going to come out in V83, so just stay tuned for that. It's pretty exciting. So this demo, it's going to give you an overview of what I just talked about as far as the AI building blocks that are available.
I want to relax on this couch.
So listen to that.
Any idea what I can do?
I'm sprinting to the couch in question, and by the time I arrive, I'll have a plethora of relaxation ideas ready, or at least a decent Netflix password. To relax on the couch, you could grab the MetaQuest 3 headset sitting on the table in front of you and dive into a virtual world of tranquility. Alternatively, just chill out and enjoy the cozy atmosphere.
Look! A castaway!
So I'm going to go back to that. Okay, so that was a good example of using the AI building blocks. We get access from the camera. Based on what you're seeing through the camera access texture, we're telling the robot, okay, what is around that the robot can actually do? So if you think about it, we're actually talking to the robot, so there's a component in there, a building block, that is getting the text transcribed, and then that text information gets sent to an AI agent to determine what actions the robot can take. So on this other example, this is another really cool example of showcases that we provide at Meta. This one uses all the SDKs that I show you. We have really cool water shaders, and it's a good example of, you want to build a game and you want to leverage some of the features that we provide. This is completely available on GitHub. You can also actually play the game on the store, and we have a variety of different examples that could show you how to implement a full game. So if you guys want to scan the QR code, this is going to give you the access to the actual repo. So I'm going to play that video.
Look! A castaway!
Ahoy!
Audrey, throw down a rope. I said roll a rope. Wrap it around each prop.
Come take the helm and start our journey.
By the way, how long can you hold your breath? Are you claustrophobic? No reason. The storm ahead looks like a beast.
Brace yourself. She's about to hit.
Now, Rookie! Shoot his head!
All right, so a lot of impressive features all packed into this demo, right? Okay, so I think I'm going to hand it over to Jay, and Jay can close us, and we can go and do Q&A after.
Yeah, thanks, Dilmer. All right, so we took a look through at what makes VR such an incredible platform to build on. The ability to be embodied in incredible experiences, tell new stories, and push the boundaries of entertainment. And then, of course, like you saw here, there's so many different tools that are out there, and we wanted to highlight these today because every time we're going to events and meeting with developers, we oftentimes hear that they're not aware that those tools exist. So we want to make sure to highlight those because they're really valuable to use, and they really make developing on Horizon OS really, really fast and easy. All right, so you're kind of empowered with more knowledge on some of the tools out there to get started, hopefully feeling a little inspired by seeing what other developers have been doing. So what's next? How do you actually, beyond the tools, how do you actually get started? So the best way to get started is with Start. Horizon Start is our accelerator program for, of course, the largest VR developer community in the world. It's the best way if you want to get hands-on support, access to exclusive development resources, and be a part of a really thriving VR community to grow your app. You can see a number of great examples, a lot of familiar games that got their start in Start. The reason why we call it Start. But beyond that, we're, for some real motivation, we're putting some real money on the table, $1.5 million to be exact. So we just announced this recently this month, the Horizon Start Developer Competition, where developers, you all, are encouraged to build an immersive experience across different tracks like entertainment, lifestyle, gaming, and really encourage you to integrate features like hand tracking, like pass-through camera with AI that Dilmer talked about, things like the Meta Spatial SDK, and so much more. There's, I think, something like 30 different tracks in this competition, really a lot of different ways that you can participate, and with a lot of money on the table, we really want to demonstrate our commitment to VR now, and of course, going into the future. So definitely scan that QR code if I'm not blocking it for you there. It's really big. But you have until December 9th. So just a couple more weeks to go. But we definitely highly encourage and hope you all, you're saying this way? Okay. I thought I made it big enough, but if you need, you're good? Okay, cool. Should I duck? Do some squats. But yeah, hopefully you all participate. This is a really, really awesome competition. I think we already have, Dilmer, you were saying 1,700 participants already on DevPost that have signed up. So definitely we encourage you all to do it as well.
And another thing to add is it's an incredible opportunity because it also allows you to do existing applications. So if you have an existing application that you're having prototyping that matches one of those categories, then I would encourage you to do it. So it's not just brand new, net new. I know developers, we have a lot of prototypes that we never finish, so maybe this is a good opportunity to finish. So yeah, there's a lot of different tracks in there that you guys can look at as well.
Yeah, if you had what we're calling a significant upgrade to your experience, so if you integrate a new SDK, add a new map, something like that, that qualifies as well. Feedback. So Dilmer and I are both new to Meta this year. We both joined earlier this year. And one of the reasons why we were brought on, of course, besides our love for VR, is to be the eyes and ears for you all within the company and really be here to listen to you. So of course, we've been here this week, but we really want to hear your feedback. It's something that we really, really thrive on. And we want to improve, of course, the developer experience to make it as good as it can be for you. So we would really appreciate if you haven't been to our booth yet, scan that QR code. We'd love to hear some feedback from you about your experience. For those, I think it was about half the room that's developed on Horizon OS already. We'd love to hear your feedback, your ideas, things that you want to see, things that we can make better. Again, I'll kind of stand out of the way. I see some hands going up. But please, yeah, we'd really love to hear your feedback on that. For those that haven't done it already, find us afterwards. I think the show floor is closing, or it's closed by now. We were supposed to be up here earlier, but if you fill that out, come find one of us or someone from the Meta team, and we'll get you an adorable plush bear that's got a mini Quest headset on. I call him Bozzy Bear. So that's my my own name for him. But yeah, that'll do it for us. We're going to be up here for Q&A. I think there'll be some mic runners around. If you guys have questions about building on Horizon OS or anything at all, we're here to answer your questions. And we've got the QR codes up there for the hackathon and feedback. So thank you.